California, it has to have evidence, solid scientific evidence that will stand up in court. That's where the CSI of oil spills comes in.
We're not even sure where it's coming from, so it's an unknown substance, unknown cause.
Lots of questions still remain weeks after the oily tar balls began washing up on Southland beaches, from Oxnard in the north to beaches all the way down the coast, including 4 beaches in Malibu and others in Santa Monica, Venice, Long Beach, and as far south as San Clemente in Orange County. As the beach cleanup spread, the question of where the tar balls came from was unanswered by local officials, except to say, we're collecting samples.
That's why it's critically essential that we take those product samples, do the sampling, and obviously that may take some time.
The samples are now at this laboratory outside Sacramento. It's run by the California Department of Fish and Game. And we got a rare look inside today. Scientists like Jim McCall have the tools to pinpoint the source of almost any oil spill here. They start by looking for what they call petroleum fingerprints.
It's very similar to what is done in, say, a criminal lab, where they're looking at the whorls and swirls on your finger and comparing it to a latent print that might be found at a crime scene.
Every drop of oil tells a story. Using what they call biomarkers, scientists match any sample sent to their lab with samples collected from offshore rigs or ships, or in this case, from a ruptured pipeline that may have released the oil.
Oil from Saudi Arabia looks very different than oil from the Alaska North Slope, and oil that's produced in the southern coast of California is different than oil that is produced a little bit further up the coast.
They can also identify additives put in the oil. For example, the oil in the ruptured Refugio pipeline contained chemicals that made it flow easier.
And those additives are there. How helpful they are in distinguishing between products kind of depends on the additive.
All of their testing is done in the blind, so they don't rush to any conclusions.
For us at the lab, we don't really know where the samples come from. We just compare what's in one jar to what's in the other, and the rest of it is kind of up to the investigating officer.
One of the questions is whether the tar balls that washed up on local beaches are the byproduct of natural seepage of oil and tar, or the result of an oil leak from a pipeline, for example. McCall says the difference is often, but not always, very easy to distinguish when analyzing samples.
Typically, seep material is heavily weathered. Stuff that is coming out of the ground is not. And on its face, that is very easy to distinguish.
The matches and conclusions reached by the scientists about the tar balls will be handed over to investigators. This past week, California Attorney General Kamala Harris visited Goleta and said she met with the Santa Barbara County District Attorney. The laboratory findings on the origin of the tar balls, findings which are commonly accepted into evidence in legal proceedings, could play a major role in any decision about whether to file criminal charges or sue for damages.
The comparisons that we do are, it's a process, and that takes time. And we owe it to the people of California, as well as the responsible party, to make sure that we do get it right.
The lab tells us their findings into the tar balls won't be finished for weeks. Experts in tides and winds will present their findings, too, to see if the tar balls could have drifted all the way to Orange County. If the lead investigators believe they have a preponderance of evidence, it's their call whether to pursue charges. Lena?